You've done it. You've broken free, shattered the cycle, and claimed your worth like the absolute legend you are. That entitled person? Oh, they're shocked, flawed, and downright dizzy, realizing they're not the prize they thought they were. But you're the whole treasure chest, the grand finale, the moment everyone's been waiting for. You've stepped up, leveled up, and left their nonsense behind. No more games, no more drama. This is your story now, one of strength, clarity, and unstoppable vibes. Let's celebrate you, the hero of this epic. Time to own it. Tony Gaskin's words hit like a thunderclap. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. And you've stopped the cycle. You've reinforced your worth. You've taught them that their entitled antics hold no power here. You chose the truth, like Neo in the Matrix. When the red pill burned through illusions, you saw reality for what it was, a construct built to trap you. They thrived on control, on bending the rules of your reality to keep you tethered. But their game failed the moment you woke up. You dismantled their script, refusing to be a pawn in their rigged system. You've shattered the illusion, and now their power disintegrates before your eyes. They thrived on your doubt, your hesitation, your need to keep the peace. But when you stopped bending, the cycle broke. Their control relied on your silence, and your refusal to fight gave them room to manipulate. But when you walked away, refusing to play their games, the foundation of their entitlement crumbled. This isn't just a shift, it's a revolution. You've reclaimed the one thing they feared losing most, your freedom. This is karmic closure. They're left grappling with a void they can't fill because you've outgrown them. The timelines have split. While they remain tangled in their web of manipulations, you've stepped into your own narrative, unfiltered, unapologetic, unshackled. Their expectations are no longer your burden. They thought you'd keep orbiting their gravity, but you've launched into a dimension of truth, abundance, and power they can't reach. This is what liberation looks like. You've claimed it. You're living it. And now, their entitled grip is nothing but a ghost of what once was. The truth has escaped, and there's no shoving it back into their crafted box of lies. Like Pandora's box unleashed, every hidden motive, every calculated manipulation has spilled out into the open, impossible to deny or contain. They thrived on your silence, believing their mask of control would never crack. But now it lies shattered at their feet. They wanted to suppress your light, dimming it to keep their shadows unchallenged, but you've stepped into the fire of truth, and their illusion has burned to ashes. Drop a comment. I made them see themselves, because my indifference dismantled their control. You see it clearly now, how they twisted reality to fit their narrative, how they masked their greed as love, their control as care. They tried to convince you that their way was the only way, that questioning them was betrayal. But the facade is gone, and their vulnerability stands naked, raw, and exposed. The power they thought was eternal has turned into desperation as the walls they built around you crumble. This is their reckoning, their moment of karmic exposure. The control they fought to maintain has dissolved in the face of your clarity. Every whisper of doubt they planted, every attempt to stifle your authenticity has failed. You've risen beyond their grasp, and the truth is your weapon, sharp, unyielding, and unstoppable. Their entitlement was their undoing. They built their throne on the shaky ground of arrogance, convinced you would bow, bend, and sacrifice your essence to fit their vision. They thought you would stay small to keep their ego intact, that your light would dim to let their shadow dominate. But you saw through the lie, refused to submit, and now their delusion collapses under its own weight. Proverbs chapter 16 verse 18 says that pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Their downfall was inevitable, written in the very arrogance they clung to. Their pride convinced them they held the power. They assumed your kindness was a weakness, mistaking your patience for permission. They demanded loyalty but offered none in return, treating you as if your worth depended on their validation. But the truth was always clear. Your value is not determined by their perception, and their narrow view could never contain the expanse of who you are. They never saw the walls of their entitlement cracking because they believed their control was unshakable. Now, as their illusion crumbles, the consequences of their arrogance echo louder than ever. Like the scripture warns, their haughty spirit has met its fall. They are left with the emptiness of their own arrogance, scrambling to understand how their illusion shattered so completely. The prize they thought was theirs, your attention, your energy, your presence, was never guaranteed. It was always yours to give or withhold, and now you've chosen freedom. Their fear isn't of your absence, but of your freedom. They see your growth, your vibrance, your refusal to be caged by their manipulations, and it terrifies them. They know what you've always been capable of, but they hope to keep you tethered, diminished under the weight of their control. Now, with every step forward, you remind them of their failure, and the possibility of someone else valuing what they dismissed is a torment they cannot bear. Their attempts to stay connected are hollow, laced with insecurity and desperation. They linger in the periphery, trying to piece together the life you're building without them, a life that no longer includes their dominance. Like the enemies of Edmond Dante, they've dug their own pit, left to stew in the bitterness of envy and regret. They are prisoners of their own pride, watching from a distance as you step fully into the life they never truly deserved to be part of. I once knew people who tried to shape me into their vision of who I should be. They wanted control over my identity, silencing my voice, dismissing my boundaries, and demanding I shrink to fit their comfort. But the day I chose my authenticity over their approval was the day everything changed. I stopped waiting for permission to be myself. I stepped away from the chaos of their expectations, and for the first time I felt the kind of peace that doesn't ask for compromise. This moment, this fork in the road, isn't just a decision, it's a complete energetic separation. Their path leads them back into the same stagnant cycle of entitlement, manipulation and control. While you've stepped boldly into a timeline of clarity and growth, they stayed behind, rooted in the safety of their illusions, while you chose the harder path, the one that required you to trust your own strength. You've walked away from their narrow version of perfection, rejecting the lie that your worth depended on their validation. You've outgrown the need to explain yourself, to seek understanding from those who only wanted control. Your decision to align with your truth has created a chasm they cannot cross. They remain frozen in their timeline, watching from a distance as you become everything they couldn't control or contain. Freedom is a choice, and it often means leaving behind those who would rather cage you than see you soar. As Herman Hsu said, "It is better to walk alone than with a crowd going in the wrong direction." They relied on your fear of isolation, on your willingness to follow their lead, even when it led to nothing but stagnation. But you refused. You chose the harder path, the one that demanded courage, self-trust, and an unwavering commitment to your own voice. Control feeds on conformity. They crafted rules to keep you small, expectations to keep you predictable, and consequences to keep you silent. They weren't leaders, they were dictators, desperate to bend your life to their will. When you broke away, they called it betrayal, chaos, rebellion. But that was their fear speaking. Your refusal to follow their script was a threat they couldn't contain, and it exposed the hollowness of their power. The clash between freedom and control begins with your independence against their relentless need for approval. While you live authentically, unburdened by the expectations of others, they are chained to the opinions of everyone around them. Their identity shifts and contorts, seeking validation, while your truth remains steadfast, unshaken by external noise. They bend to the world's applause, but you stand tall, needing no one's permission to exist boldly. Their constant people-pleasing is a fragile facade. It masquerades as harmony, but is rooted in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of standing alone. You, however, have chosen the harder path, the one that demands courage and self-trust. You navigate life without seeking external validation, while they are consumed by the need to be liked, to fit in, to be everything to everyone. Their approval-seeking isn't strength, it's submission. This fundamental difference creates tension. They project their insecurities onto you, questioning your choices, not because they doubt you, but because your independence highlights their own lack of freedom. They cannot understand how you thrive without bending to the will of others, how you find strength in standing apart from the crowd. Their need for control clashes with your refusal to conform, and it unsettles them. In this battle of independence versus approval, you've already won by choosing authenticity over acceptance. Your freedom is a force they cannot contain, and their dependence on others leaves them vulnerable to the winds of outside opinion. Stop right there. Yes, you. This message isn't for everyone, and if you don't feel it, that's fine. Move along. But if you felt it, deep in your bones, you'll know this is for you. Here's to the chosen ones, the ones who don't fit in, the ones who see beyond the veil, the ones who've been told to stay quiet, to settle, to conform, but never could. They aren't interested in what's ordinary. They aren't here to follow someone else's rules. They're the light in the dark, the storm that shatters illusions, the unshakable, the unstoppable, the untouchable. While the world is busy running circles, they're walking their own path alone if they must. Not for the applause, not for the approval, but because it's who they are. Here's to the ones who take what was meant to destroy them and transform it into something divine. The ones who carry wisdom that can't be taught, only earned. If this resonates with you, then maybe it's time to find your people. The Obsidian Inner Order is the only place of its kind, the #1 Ascension Nexus for chosen ones, where over 400 of us gather to share wisdom, connect, and transform. No masks, no games, just truth. The link is in the description. If you're ready, you'll know where to find us. The second clash between freedom and control is your growth against their stagnation. You thrive in the chaos of change, embracing it as a catalyst for transformation, while they cling to control, terrified of the unpredictability your presence exposes. They build walls of comfort, creating a world that never shifts, but your growth shakes those foundations to their core. Where you see opportunity, they see danger. Where you adapt, they resist. Their fear of the unknown is no match for your hunger to evolve. They live in denial, convinced their control is strength, but it is nothing more than fear in disguise. They reject change because it threatens the false stability they've spent years constructing. You, however, understand that growth is messy, unpredictable, and necessary. Every risk you take, every new step forward reminds them of their own unwillingness to move. Your evolution makes their stagnation impossible to ignore, and that tension is a storm they cannot weather. This clash is not about who is right or wrong, it's about what is real. Their static existence cannot contain the vibrancy of your progress. They try to rein you in, label you reckless, accuse you of disruption, but it is their fear speaking. Your growth disrupts their illusion of control, and it terrifies them. You are the mirror showing them what they lack, and that reflection is unbearable. In this battle of growth versus stagnation, you are unstoppable. You refuse to shrink, to stay still, to conform to their fear. They remain rooted in the past, but you are already thriving in the future. Another clash between freedom and control is your courage against their fear. Your willingness to break free from the chains of societal norms exposes their fear of stepping outside the boundaries of their comfort zone. You dare to question the rules, to defy expectations, and to carve your own path. They resent you not because you are wrong, but because you embody the bravery they wish they had. Your boldness is a mirror reflecting their reluctance to embrace the unknown. Their comfort lies in conformity. They follow the script handed to them, convinced that safety lies in predictability. But your courage disrupts their carefully controlled world. You prove that life doesn't have to follow their rules, that freedom is found in defiance, not compliance. Every act of rebellion you take, every norm you shatter, feels like a threat to their sense of stability. They cannot face the truth you represent, that they've settled for less because fear told them it was enough. This tension runs deeper than resentment. They see in you the life they are too afraid to claim. You refuse to be limited, to accept what you've been given without questioning if it's right for you. Their fear keeps them stuck, but your courage makes them restless. They call you reckless, selfish, even foolish, but these are the words of people protecting their comfort at all costs. The contrast between your light and their shadows is a clash they cannot escape. Marianne Williamson spoke the truth when she said, "It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us." Your brilliance, your unapologetic authenticity, and your refusal to shrink reveal the shadows they try so desperately to hide. They fear your light, not because it harms them, but because it exposes the truth they've buried. Truths about their insecurities, their stagnation, and their inability to step into their own power. Your light forces them to confront what they've avoided. Where you radiate clarity, purpose, and courage, they retreat into denial, clinging to the comfort of their shadows. They mask their fear with criticism, calling you arrogant, reckless, or overly ambitious, but these words are merely shields against their discomfort. Your existence as a force of light challenges their reliance on darkness, and that challenge is something they neither want nor are ready to face. This is not about you dimming yourself for their comfort. It is about their refusal to embrace their own potential. Your light doesn't take away from theirs. It only reveals the shadows they refuse to address. They resent you not for shining, but for shining so brightly that their excuses can no longer hold weight. The first contrast between your light and their shadows is your transparency against their secrecy. You live openly, grounded in truth, while they hide behind layers of deception, weaving narratives to protect their fragile illusions. Your honesty is a force they cannot withstand, a light that cuts through the fog of their carefully constructed lies. Every time you speak your truth, it forces them to confront the web of falsehoods they've built around themselves. They don't fear your words, they fear what your words reveal. Your transparency doesn't just expose their lies to others, it exposes the lies they tell themselves. They thrive in secrecy, using half-truths and omissions to manipulate and control. But your refusal to play along dismantles their power. Your honesty challenges the foundation of their shadows, and it terrifies them. They resent you for your openness, accusing you of being too bold, too raw, too much. But these accusations are just shields for their fear. They know that if they were as transparent as you, their world would collapse. The truth once spoken leaves no room for shadows. Your light strips away the illusions they rely on to maintain control, and they are left defenseless, forced to face themselves. In this clash of transparency versus secrecy, your light prevails. Their shadows cannot survive in the presence of your truth. They may cling to their lies, but you don't have to live in their darkness. The second contrast between your light and their shadows is your authenticity against their facade. You are unapologetically real, living in the truth of who you are, while they craft personas to impress and maintain control. Their false identity is a mask, carefully constructed to hide their insecurities and manipulate perception. But your raw authenticity is a force they cannot withstand, a light that reveals every crack in their polished veneer. They thrive on appearances, curating every detail to project an image of perfection, strength, or superiority. But your authenticity exposes the emptiness behind their facade. You refuse to play their game, to contort yourself into something you're not. Your refusal to wear a mask highlights their dependence on theirs. Your unfiltered truth becomes a mirror, forcing them to see the fragility of the persona they cling to. The weight of their deception grows heavier in your presence. The pressure to maintain their false identity becomes unbearable when faced with the simplicity and power of your honesty. They call you reckless, unrefined, or even naive. But these are just deflections. The truth is, they envy the freedom you have in being yourself. Your light shows them what they lack: courage, clarity, and the strength to live without pretense. In this battle of authenticity versus facade, their shadows cannot compete. Their carefully built image cannot survive the weight of your truth. You are free, while they remain trapped in the prison of their own making. The third contrast between your light and their shadows is your alignment against their disconnection. You live in harmony with your purpose and values, while they stumble through life detached from their true selves. Your alignment is a quiet power, a radiant clarity that makes their disconnection impossible to ignore. They see in you the unity they lack, and it leaves them feeling exposed, raw, and vulnerable. The person they pretend to be crumbles under the weight of the person they truly are. They have spent years running from themselves, creating distance between their reality and the image they project. They wear disconnection like armor, hoping it will shield them from judgment. But your alignment shatters their illusion. Where you stand firm in your values, they flounder, trying to please others or meet expectations that have nothing to do with who they are. Your light reveals the fractures in their identity, and the truth is a burden they can no longer avoid. They envy your ability to live authentically, to walk in alignment with your highest self. They resent you for showing them what they lack, but their resentment is rooted in shame. Your alignment doesn't condemn them, it invites them to face the gap between who they are and who they've been pretending to be. But facing that truth requires courage they have yet to find. Your radiance terrifies them, not because it harms them, but because it reveals the depth of their shadows, the insecurities, lies, and fears they have buried to maintain control. Your openness, your transparency, shines without apology, exposing the deception they use to shield themselves from the truth. Their entitlement is their undoing, a trap of their own making. They sought to manipulate, control, and exploit, believing they could twist the world and you to fit their desires. But as Elbert Hubbard said, we are punished by our sins, not for them. Their manipulations were never power. They were weakness disguised as control. Now the weight of their actions has come crashing down, and they're left stranded, forced to confront the emptiness of their efforts. Manipulation is a hollow victory. It offers the illusion of control, but leaves behind nothing but destruction. They thought they could take without consequence, but their entitlement blinded them to reality. Every lie, every game, every demand has turned against them. They are now spectators of your success, standing on the sidelines of a life they can no longer influence. While they squandered their energy on control, you invested yours in growth, and now the contrast is undeniable. Your thriving existence is a testament to what they lost. They wanted power over you, but they underestimated your ability to rise. They convinced themselves that manipulation would keep you bound, but it only sharpened your clarity and resolve. Each attempt to control pushed you further into your own strength, and now their grip is gone entirely. What remains is the emptiness of their schemes, a consequence they never saw coming. This isn't your punishment to bear, it's theirs. Their entitlement was never about you. It was about their fear, their need, their refusal to face their own inadequacies. They are left with the aftermath of their own sins, watching from the shadows as you thrive in the light. Their manipulation cost them everything, and now they must live with the price of their choices. You've shattered the chains they tried to bind you with, stepping boldly into your own light. Shakespeare's words remind us, "To thine own self be true," and you have lived this truth with unwavering conviction. You dismantled their illusions, rejected their manipulations, and reclaimed your worth. This is not just freedom, it is power, the kind that radiates from within and cannot be dimmed by anyone else's insecurities. You didn't just survive their control, you thrived in spite of it. Their shadows have no claim over you anymore. This is your time to rise, unapologetically embracing the truth of who you are. You owe no explanations, no compromises, no part of yourself to those who doubted, demeaned, or sought to control you. You are the storm they feared, the clarity they could not withstand. Your light is no longer hidden, and your worth is undeniable. You stand here, not as a product of their attempts to define you, but as a testament to your own strength and self-trust. Now, the world is watching as you shine. There is no going back to a life lived on their terms. You've proven to yourself that you are enough, powerful, deserving, and free. Let this be the moment you live fully in that truth, without hesitation or fear. Your story doesn't just end with survival, it begins with your unapologetic triumph. Your voice is your power, your truth, your legacy. Share your story. Let others see what freedom looks like. Let them feel what empowerment sounds like. Your light is a force, and the world needs it now more than ever.